Welcome to episode 243 of the Aegis podcast. I'm David Stewart, here with senior editor of Aegis magazine, Margaret May.
Hey everyone. This week, we're welcoming Christine Sperber, a dynamic force in the world of mountain sports and community building. David had a really wonderful interview with her this week.
My adult life is just beginning right now. I feel like I've put in the work and now I get to kind of reap the benefits of that work. It just feels like it's all just starting.
After that, we're going to dig into three interesting news items in the world of wellness and longevity that you may have missed.
First one up, it is menopause and sexual wellness goes mainstream.
Next was milk, as I recall.
Yes, milk is having a moment.
Ooh.
And then last but not least here, we got the Six Senses Resorts debuted a female-first biohacking retreat. And lastly, David will be sharing his thought process surrounding the it's not too late theory and how this mindset is driving what we do here at Aegis. All that and more coming up after a quick word from our sponsors.
Today's show is brought to you in part by Fatty 15, an incredible breakthrough in healthy aging. Fatty 15 is the first supplement to feature C15, a newly discovered essential fatty acid that helps repair and protect your cells as you age. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you get older. Get 15% off your 90-day starter kit at fatty15.com/Aegis with code Aegis at checkout. This show is also brought to you by Maui Nui. Maui Nui's wild venison is the cleanest, most nutrient-dense red meat out there. It's high in protein, rich in antioxidants, and ethically harvested. Their venison sticks are perfect for healthy snacking on the go. Check it out in the link in bio or go to mauinuivenison.com/Aegis. I had major knee surgery. I'm focused on healing myself. MitoPure from Timeline is helping me do just that, supporting my mitochondria for better energy and strength. Now in a zero-sugar strawberry gummy. Yum. Get 20% off. That's 20% off at timelinenutrition.com with code AGEIST, AGEIST. Thanks again for tuning into the show. Let's give Christine Sperber a call right now. Hey, Christine, where are you today?
Hello, David. I am calling in from Breckenridge, Colorado.
Oh, I feel like every time I interact with you, you're in some other part of the planet. Talk to me, why Breckenridge, Colorado?
I actually moved to Breckenridge in 1989 and spent about 32 years here and was commuting seasonally between Baja and Breckenridge for about 15 years. And now I'm spending a lot of time back in Breckenridge. I have lots of dear friends here, and I have a boyfriend here. That made it sound like I have like multiple boyfriends in multiple places. I don't. My boyfriend, I don't. My boyfriend lives here in Breckenridge, and I'm here with him. Just to clarify.
We're gonna stop. We're gonna stop this whole line of conversation right now. Okay. Let's get into some of your. You're a former World Cup snowboarder. You're an entrepreneur, an innovator. So looking back, was there a moment where you realized it wasn't too late to reinvent yourself? It seems like you're in this constant reinvention.
That's an interesting question. I think I have tried really to make lifestyle-driven decisions my entire life. Right. And so if there was an opportunity that seemed interesting that was going to lead to a good and healthy and happy lifestyle, I was certainly willing to try it. I've always been a jump and the net will appear kind of person, much to the, great fear of my parents and the people around me who love me. But so I feel like I almost have the opposite problem where like I need to slow my roll sometimes. Right? Like, I'm going to move to Baja. Fine. I'm going to get into hospitality. Fine. It's just kind of all rolled. And maybe I don't take enough time sometimes to consider the implications of what I'm going to do. I'm just like, let's go.
You used to did you do half pipe when you were snowboarder?
I did. I was a half pipe competitor, which is just the most fun thing I can possibly imagine, except for riding powder, which of course is like a whole click above. But there's just nothing like the feeling of being in the half pipe and kind of the compression of coming down a transition and across a flat bottom and compressing again, and then the explosion and the expansion out. And we would play games like Can you ride the half pipe with your eyes closed? Can you ride it completely backwards? Can you ride it backwards with your eyes closed? Like just really tapping into the cadence of it is just, I don't know, a bit addictive.
Which brings me to, you've pushed the limits in sports. You've pushed out into hospitality, something like entirely new. MEA, by the way, is awesome. I got Chip to blush.
You did? Tell me more. Tell me more. How'd you do
I
it?
told Chip, I said, you guys are like unbelievably good at what you do. He turned all pink and was like, yeah, I don't BS with this stuff. It's like, yeah, you guys are really good.
Thank you. It means a lot. We worked really, really hard to get to where we are, and it's easy to forget it. It's easy to miss those moments. So thank you for seeing that and saying it.
It's the truth. But what has kept you curious and bold and courageous moving into all these new things over time? Because some people don't do that.
I think it's kind of a mix. I think some of it is just my nature. I just don't know any better. I don't have like the good cautious gene. What's that Janis Joplin quote? Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Yeah.
But I also have to say, we're on almost 8 years of MEA now, and we've been pulling these different thought leaders into our universe, into the orbit over and over again. And I've just had the amazing fortune of sitting in the classroom with like Dacher Keltner, who's the world's foremost scholar in the human experience of awe, right? The contemplation of vast mystery. And how can you not feel tiny and expansive in the face of that, right? Or thought leader after thought leader after thought leader bringing interesting ideas and concepts. And it's like, I'm just hungry to learn all the time. And I don't know, it's just been fun.
You recently said, I remember you said it to me, you said it's important at this age to play games that you're probably not going to win.
Something like that. I always say it's important to play games you're not sure you can win.
Sure you can
right?
win. Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes we can win. That's okay. I'm not like anti-winning by any means, but what I see happen so often, and it's totally understandable, is we get good at things, right? And then our identity gets tied to the thing that we're good at. Our idea of our like sophistication gets tied to the thing that we're good at. And we stop trying new things because we don't either feel the freedom or we don't want to be goofy. We don't want to be a beginner, right? It's just totally understandable why it happens. But I think it's incredibly important from a health perspective, a neuroscience perspective, a fun perspective, right? To continue to be in that curious space where you're willing to be a beginner, where you're willing to be goofy. Stacy Peralta calls it the kook zone, where he continually puts himself back in the kook zone, where you're willing to be a kook. I love that framework. There's just so much freedom in it, Where are you a beginner right now, David? What are you doing that's like puts you in the kook zone?
Every day, fully 30% of what I do, I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's a great
and
answer.
I'm just like, should we do this? What's that? How does, I was just like, I don't know, test and learn. We'll find out. So.
And it keeps you like excited and engaged, right? And learning. I just spent last week, I was with two of my oldest friends and was really surprised by where each of them was fixed in different areas, just like really resistant and fixed. And there's no upside to it. You don't win anything by remaining fixed. I have one friend, she travels the entire world for work all the time. We call her the Hell Mission Traveler. She's been to India probably 50 times. I mean, she can go anywhere. She can navigate anything. And with like a backpack and $1.50, it's crazy what this woman can do. She refuses to check in online for a flight because she has never done it before. And she likes to check in at the airport with a person and talk to a human. And I was like, why? I don't understand that. You can check in 24 hours ahead. You can change your seat. You can, nope, I don't do it. I thought, that's really interesting. That's really fixed to me. I have another friend who refuses to put apps on her phone. The risk of being left behind when we don't take the incremental steps is so gigantic, right? And then the risk of isolation as we age and this loneliness epidemic, like why wouldn't we stay on top of these baby steps? Well, they maybe feel scary. or different, but the world evolves, and we can either evolve with it or remain fixed and stuck, and there's no win in that to me.
We once did a study at Ageist about fear of irrelevance. Fear of irrelevance actually is higher than fear of death. So people really don't want to be irrelevant, because then you become useless, right? Which is not what anybody wants. But what you're expressing here, there's sort of this combination of self-fossilization and stubbornness. Like, I'm just not going to go, I'm going to do this new thing. And I know so many people like that. It's like, all right, that's not my jam. hope that's working out for you, but I don't get it.
I mean, I understand that sometimes, like, the speed of innovation, the adoption can feel overwhelming, but I don't think we have to take on every single new thing. You don't have to live in a smart home that, like, cleans your shoes when you step out of the, right? But, like, there are just things that are little incremental improvements to your life that are available every day, and to just kind of tap out because it's new and different, it's a real risky choice, in my opinion.
You mentioned that you make your decisions based on lifestyle.
I have tried to. I haven't always succeeded, right? Like, if there's, someone told me, I forget who said this, that, like, humans are wired for story. So if we have, if we're at an inflection point between two choices, make the choice that's the more interesting story. And that will always lead you in the right direction. It will also kind of stretch time for us because of the way that we are wired for story.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. If you don't know what to do, pick the one that's going to create the better story.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wish I could remember who said it. It might have been, he's an expert on the difference between Chronos and Kairos time. I'll have to dig up his name for you. He's fascinating. He was actually an Olympic speed skater who was part of our guest faculty. He's an athlete and an adventurer, and he's a speaker and a writer. And this work about time and how do you craft the summer of your youth, right? Because remember how summers used to last forever when we were kids? He's like, you can do that. There are ways that you can hack to change your perception of time, right? Chronos time is the way that the clock moves. Kairos time is the way that we experience it. And the way that we experience time both grows and shrinks depending on what's happening. And the way that we remember and experience things are inverse. So, like, long, boring things, when you think about them later, they just take up a tiny bit of your memory, right? Because they were long and boring, but they weren't rich and wired for story.
More novelty and more emotion is what I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, more story. Okay, now I have like a guiding light in my life. More story.
It's not too late. I started writing my book this week. I have been pushed for a book for a long time, and I felt really resistant just to the entire idea of writing a book, and I felt like I didn't have the thing that I needed to say. Everything felt really inauthentic, and like I was just trying to write a book. And all of a sudden, like, ton of bricks, the thing that I need to say, that I want to say, that feels like it is a contribution to the culture and the conversation, landed. And so now I'm like, I am writing my book, and I'm thrilled to be writing my book. I'm 55 years old. I haven't written a book before. Not too late. Not too late for me to write a book.
That's right. You've helped create some unforgettable places and businesses and experiences. That was sort of your thing, right? Great experiences. Yeah. What's been one of your favorite aha moments in making something from nothing?
I think this can be shared.
Oh, okay. Whatever that is, I want it.
Okay. So I was working at Copper Mountain, and I was working for this very progressive man, Jim Kircher, who was kind of an outlier in ski area management, and Kircher kind of set me free and made me the cultural minister of free ride and events. That was my title at Copper. And so we had this team of skiers that I put together, and kind of sponsoring free ride skiers was a newer thing at the time. I was playing ice hockey at that point with patrol, so it was much easier for me to get things done around the mountain than most people could get done from a risk profile. And we had a new risk manager. It was his first day on the job, and we came up with this idea that we could pull the skiers in the parking lot into a jump over a bus the long way with the copper logo on it, right? And so we pulled them in with a sled, and we built the wedge on either side, and they jumped over and they did tricks over the bus. And it was a wonderful, terrible idea. Nobody got hurt. It was super fun. It was super visual. We shot it for Warren Miller. It ended up on some network TV. It cost me a 36-pack of PBR to patrol, and probably a couple of years off the poor risk manager's life, who was like, what the fuck job did I just sign up for? And what is happening? This is happening in a parking lot right now. We're flinging skiers over a bus a long way. But I mean, that was nothing. We created that from nothing. The cost was so low. As I get further along in my career, things feel less nimble sometimes, right? Because we have to consider risk or budgets, or, none of the things I want to think about. I don't want to think about risks and budgets. I just want to do rad shit. I know, of course, I don't want to hurt anybody. So that was a lot of fun. And that was really from nothing. And that was, happened through the power of relationships, connection. The skiers were up for it, and the filmers were up for it. And that was it was a blast.
Were there hallucinogenic drugs involved in that? It was that time. I don't know.
No, there were no drugs involved in the making of that at all. Although I wouldn't have been surprised if that risk manager needed a few stiff drinks at the end of that day and probably reconsidered his career choices.
I can see that. Great insights from Christine. We'll be right back to that conversation after a brief message from our sponsors. As someone who thinks a lot about aging, I've tried most everything, from cutting-edge tech to the simplest things like walking more and sleeping better. But what really caught my attention recently is something that feels quietly revolutionary. It's called Fatty 15. This isn't just another supplement. Fatty 15 is built around C15, a newly discovered essential fatty acid, the first to be found in over 90 years. That's right, discovered by Dr. Stephanie Venn Watson while working with aging dolphins in the US Navy. Dolphins, who knew they'd teach us so much about human health? What makes C15 remarkable is how it repairs and protects our cells, boosting energy, supporting sleep, cognitive function, and even smoothing out those stiff joints we start to notice more as we age. Based on over 100 studies, we now know that C15 strengthens our cells and is a key healthy aging nutrient, which helps to slow biological aging at the cellular level. In fact, when our cells don't have enough C15, they become fragile and age faster. When our cells age, our bodies age too. Fatty 15 is clean, 100% pure, vegan, and free from all the junk you don't need. Over 70% of users report real benefits within 16 weeks. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/ageist and using code ageist at checkout. So if you want to age like you mean it, gracefully, powerfully, and with purpose, Fatty 15 is a smart place to start. I was a Maui Nui customer for a year, and I'm so pleased to now have them as a sponsor of this podcast. This, I gotta say, is the best protein I have ever had. As some of you know, I'm recovering from knee surgery, and one of the things about recovering from surgery is you need a ton of protein in your diet to help your body repair itself. But you also need all these micronutrients, and you don't need a lot of calories. My favorite Maui Nui product are the leg medallions. I have these, confession, probably twice a week. My favorite way to cook the venison is in a pan. I put it on low heat because it cooks really fast. I put garlic on both sides, a little salt, a little pepper. It's just great. After eating Maui Nui venison, beef just feels like some sort of industrial product. I mean, it sounds terrible, but once you have something like this, you notice the difference. I'm a huge fan of Maui Nui, and it's not because they're sponsoring this podcast. It's because I have been a customer for over a year, and I'm a huge believer in this company. I believe in what they're doing, and I believe in their product. Check them out, mauinuivenison.com/ageist. So for you right now personally, what is this idea, it's not too late? What does that mean to you?
I really feel like I'm at the precipice of like a whole new everything opening up right now. Like, I can't believe I get to be 55 years old and healthy and have some financial security and tools and skills to go just like out into the world, right? We hired at MEA. We've been operating for like 8 years now. In November, we hired a CEO, and for the first time, that was outside of our founder group. We have an executive leadership team. So I'm not a daily decision maker in our business anymore, which has given me like such an amazing amount of freedom. Because anyone who's been in startup world knows, and we were in like such intense startup at MEA for so long, because we opened in Baja, and then just when we opened to the public, we did like a beta period that was 13 weeks long, 153 people, where we in that time developed our entire point of view curriculum, wrote the workbook, and then opened to the public. And we were just cruising. I mean, it was like the idea was resonant, it was sticky, it was valuable to people. People were finding us, we were getting crazy press, and then pandemic. And you know what really didn't work in pandemic is flying people from all over the world into a room to talk for a week, right? Like, felt so risky. So we ended up closing for 7.5 weeks. We reopened with a new format that we still do in summer. It's kind of an immersion series where we utilize all of the beauty of the outdoors that we have in Baja, less time together in a room, more time in experiential education that's kind of opt-in. David, you've done our workshop. You know how intense they are. The schedule is kind of boom, boom, boom. And then in the, our summer immersions, there's a lot of spaciousness to them. So we reopened after COVID. Then when we were able to reopen workshops, we did that. And then just when we caught our breath on that, it was time to open MEA in Santa Fe, because in the 7.5 months that we were closed to the public, we sat in a room and just like ideate. What do we do? How do we keep this going? And the ideas that we came to in that time were we needed to go online. And then the question was, okay, if what we're doing is so intensely personal and feels like the in-person experience is critical, how do we actually make that better? How could we improve that online? What are the benefits of being online that would allow us to improve what we're doing? We decided that we needed to get into regenerative residential development. So many people come to our workshops and say, I don't want to leave. How do I live like this? And so that led to the creation of Baja Sage. And basically from the moment that we opened in Mexico, and we're operating on the Pacific coast of the Baja Peninsula, about an hour north of Cabo, from the time we opened there, people said, this is beautiful, we love it, you need a U.S. location. So those 3 big initiatives came out of that time that we were closed and in a room covered with sticky notes. I mean, we just went to town with sticky notes and kind of unleashing dreams. So got our footing in Baja, and then all of a sudden we're like buying a 2,600 acre ranch in Santa Fe that we had to learn how to operate a ranch. We had to learn about the culture and the business community of New Mexico. We opened there just over a year ago. Long story longer. Hiring the CEO, Derek Gale, who's doing a great job, and an executive leadership team is giving me space to breathe in a way and play more than anything that I haven't had in almost 8 years. So, I mean, I'm traveling, I'm playing with my friends, I'm riding my bike. David, as you know, I had a total hip replacement in November. So I was pretty dedicated to my prehab going into that, and am still kind of, the rehab was slower than I expected. How's your knee going?
I'm at 6 weeks, and I met with the head PT guy, and he's like, looking great. He's like, the docs are going to say you can rip on this thing right like now. You're good to go. I'm going to tell you you can't do that. You're got another 6 weeks, and then we can talk about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I do VO2 max training? He's like, no.
It's the hardest message, isn't it? Like, it feels like, intuitively, it feels like more is more. Like, if I rehab more, it's going to be better. I'm going to be stronger. This is going to happen faster. Everyone who knows me was like, you are going to overdo it coming out of this hip surgery. And I was like, no, I'm not. And I totally did. And then I was cheating on my PT with the trainer and doubling up. And at some point I was like, all right, this is probably not the right direction and had to ease off. So now I'm coming back from overdoing. So annoying. I'm so annoyed with myself. I really feel like my adult life is just beginning right now. I feel like I've put in the work and now I get to kind of reap the benefits of that work, both like the lived experience that I can use to live better and make better choices, to having the time and space and resource to really enjoy and impact. So for me, it feels like life is kind of, in a way, just beginning.
Is it Arthur Brooks who talks about crystallized intelligence? Is that right? Or maybe,
Yeah.
is it him or Chip somebody? But yeah.
It's Brooks. It's Brooks. It's fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. I really feel that. I actually was talking this morning about how shocking it is. I think about, my parents had me when they were 21 and 22 years old, and that was completely normal at that point. I'm 55 now. I've never had children, but I feel like at 55, I am maybe just beginning to be equipped to guide another human through I don't know what, growth, something. Yeah, I'm happy. You say that it's good to be David. It's good to be Christine. It is certainly not without challenges and not without heartaches. I just don't think we get to be this old without loss and grief and hurt, but also like joy and lessons and community if we're lucky. So it just feels like it's all just starting.
I'm going to name drop. So I'm on a board with Deepak.
Okay.
So it's like me and it's basically me and 5 famous people. And so Deepak's one of them.
That's how I feel at MEA all the time. I'm like,
It's just like, yeah, all right, what doesn't fit here? Okay. That guy. All right. But we had this, he was telling me about this Indian poet who would wake up every day and just look out his window and just marvel at existence. That existence is just, like, I think you reach sort of a certain point where you're just like, this is unfucking believable. Like, and it's just, and it's sort of like that, like all day. You got problems, you got challenges, you got stuff you got to figure out, but
right.
But you have that opportunity, right? It is amazing, in a way that I think that's why I'm just so like happy to be David these days. It's just like, I'm just like, wow, existence. How awesome is that?
I mean, it is a miracle, right? And not everyone on the planet is having the same experience. So
No.
there is great suffering in the world, and I almost feel like it's disrespectful if we're not aware of the amount of grace that we move through the world with. It's disrespectful to people who don't have the same circumstances. So I am aware of that, and I think there's science that shows that a gratitude practice changes everything. If the first thing you do in the morning, you wake up and you think about 5 things you're grateful for, it changes your neurochemistry or something. You'll move through the entire day differently. So
I wake up and I lay in bed and I sort of don't move for a moment. I just sort of like feel my body, like, okay, body, you're here. Okay, like the bed. Okay, I see the window, and then I just sort of immediately go into, wow, how amazing! Like everything moves. Like,
Right.
look at this. This is so
Right.
cool.
do you feel like some of that comes out of just being through your knee surgery? Because I know I always, when I have an injury, on the other side of it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so much more grateful for my movement and, my vitality. I mean, and it all comes back to like leapfrog back to a question you asked earlier about experience design. These things that slow us down, like these surgeries, like injuries, give us opportunity to see the world through other people's eyes, which increases our empathy. And I do believe that all good design begins with empathy. So if we're creating experience for someone, really, really have to walk in their shoes to understand how they will perceive that experience. What does it look like, smell like, taste like? What's the sound? What's the emotional arc of the experience? We really spent a lot of time at MEA thinking about the emotional arc of the week and where do we want to get people and what do we want to talk about in the classroom from a curriculum perspective, and then how do we take that out of the classroom and make it experiential for embodied learners or for people who didn't quite, like just all the different inputs are so important. And sometimes your outcomes in the classroom, and sometimes your outcomes because you're down in the arroyo in Santa Fe with Lee Johnson, who makes you take your shoes off and stand in the dirt with your feet in the dirt, connecting, and you go, wow, I really haven't connected with land lately. I really haven't had. I'm not present the way I might have thought I was present. This makes me present. So, yay for getting injured.
Yeah, I never understood ADA regulations, and now I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can't bend your leg, things like just like getting off the toilet become, harder.
Yeah.
Getting in and out of a car, even now, I've got about, I don't know, maybe 110 degrees of motion in my knee. So like, I have to do this sort of like gymnastics thing, getting like in and out of a car. Empathy, that's right.
And I think that's probably one of the lucky lessons that we get as we get older, right? As you move through human life, is hopefully your empathy is increasing. There's things we have to guard against.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you get to choose. Are you going to be curious or blasé? Which one? Which mantle are you picking up?
Christine, thank you for your time.
It's been a pleasure. I love hanging out with you. Anytime I can get the excuse to hang out with you, David, I'm in.
I'm thinking Copper Mountain, never been there. I'm telling my main PTs on Monday, I'm saying, listen, this is the clock. So November 15th, and I'm going to show them what I do, and I'm going to say, I need to be able to do this. That's your goal.
Do you have a race in November at Copper?
No, but
Okay.
I want to be on snow. I have a certain amount of difficulty with self-control on the throttle when I get on skis, so you know how that is. I really love the sensation of G-force.
You should ski the half pipe, David. That's that sensation I was talking about.
I used to skate
The
in half pipe.
compression.
Oh yeah, I get that. I used to skate in half pipe. I know that. And then but I don't skate in half pipe anymore for a reason.
Yeah, I understand. And to the point about continuing to play games we aren't sure that we can win, you want to do that in a considered way, right? But some of these risks they're not physical. They're not embodied. They're just
Right.
like, learn a new app. So
How risky is that? If that's your risk threshold, learn a new app, you got bigger problems. Come on.
you know what, whatever it is, I think if you can recognize your edge, name it. I'm not saying this about me, but if you can recognize like, hey, you're a technophobe, then that's your growth edge. Like find your growth edge and don't let it define you. Do you need a moment of spec before we go?
Give us the wisdom of Speck, please. Speck weighs 3.5 pounds and has some trouble keeping his tongue in his mouth. But we love Mr. Speck. There's a certain wisdom to Mr. Speck.
He is the picture of aging. He weighed 400 grams when he was given to me. He's like about 3.5 pounds. And he's just a little ball of love. Unless you are another dog, then he fucking hates you.
Well done. Christine, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I hope there was something usable in there. I'm definitely like on an endorphin high right now from riding for a couple hours before I got on the phone with you. So,
We're going to keep that part.
okay.
Oh, that was a great chat with Christine, David. I just love how she was talking about like lifestyle driven decisions and how that has kind of shaped her life and how she's seen the pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that works really well for some people. She's a particularly special human being who is a pro snowboarder I mean, who does that anyway? Who decides to like drop into a half pipe and do like crazy spins off a lip, and make a living at that? It's a certain kind of person, and she's that. She really has this wonderful joie de vivre about getting the most out of life. And as she said, her life decisions are based on lifestyle more than anything else. And I think that it's really nice to hear that point of view.
Yeah, and I think that so many people forget that, right? Like all the decisions we're making each day are shaping our life in full, and all of those kind of micro and major decisions can lead us in a totally new direction. And it seems like she's really kind of prioritized joy just
Yeah.
by making lifestyle decisions, because then the quality of her life every day is something that she's looking forward to. You want to feel that way, right? Like you want to be excited about what you're doing when you get up in the morning, even if it is just going to be like walking the dog or, like stepping out in your neighborhood. But to feel that way, like that comes from all those choices and decisions that you've made previously.
Yeah, I really liked her approach. She talks about this lifestyle driven life that she's had, but it's essentially test and learn.
Hmm.
So I'm certain that if she were to make some kind of decision and she's like, this is not for me, she would just be out and she would do something else.
Well, that's like the beauty of it, right? Like we can make a decision and then we can choose to go a different route. We can
Yeah.
completely change course if we want to. And I feel like sometimes people get stuck in this idea of like, oh, I've made this choice and then this is the logical next choice I have to make because I've
Yeah.
made this one. So I have to keep going. But you can backpedal if you want to, and that can be a positive thing. So it really all comes down to our mindset in terms of how we're thinking about the gravity of those decisions. They can be as kind of off the cuff as we want them to be or as planned as we want them to be.
Well, the nice thing about having a brain is you can change your mind.
Exactly.
It's not fixed. One of the things that I just love about Christine is she has this sense of freedom about her, and she's in her mid 50s, and clearly it's not too late for her. I mean, she doesn't look at that at all. She sees all these wide horizons opening up in front of her, and I think one of the other things to take away from this is that part of it's not too late is you also got to take actions. Stuff doesn't happen if you just like sit in your house and watch TV. You got to go out and do stuff, and she's making it happen.
Oh, yeah, no, she's not sitting there thinking about, like, "What if this would be cool, I could do this." She has an idea, and she's just like, "Let's just see how it works. How do I feel
Yeah.
doing it?" And just yeah, I think the taking action piece is really key. Can we talk about her dog for a moment, though?
Oh, spec. Oh, yeah, yeah. When I was teaching at MEA, spec was like her satellite. Like she would walk and like spec would just sort of like be around her, like orbiting.
Appropriate name then.
Yeah, given to her by a shaman, I think has like, I don't know, maybe 5 teeth left in his head. So his tongue sort of comes out a lot. Yes, we are all in awe of the wisdom of spec. Absolutely.
The smallest dogs really do have the biggest personalities and essence, it's so true. Even he embodies that it's not too late.
No, it's not too late for spec.
That was really fun. I so enjoyed listening to your conversation with Christine, David, and thanks to Christine for being on the podcast. When we come back, Dave and I will chat about 3 things in the health and wellness world that are sure to spark some opinions.
Today's show is also brought to you by Timeline. I want to talk to you about something that could change the way you think about aging and cellular health. We've all heard the phrase mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. But what does that really mean to us as we get older? Well, it turns out quite a lot. Mitochondria don't just produce energy, they are central to muscle strength, vitality, and how we age overall. By the time we hit our 30s, these little powerhouses start to decline. No good. Less energy, slower recovery, aging that you can feel. Yeah, we know what that's like. And I'll tell you, coming off of major knee surgery, I've never been more aware of just how important recovery and strength really are. That's why I've been taking MitoPure. It's a scientifically backed formula that supports mitochondrial health, helping increase muscle strength and energy in as little as 2 months. No extra workouts needed, just real cellular level support. And now, get this, it comes in a zero sugar strawberry gummy. Yum. Same science, same power, now easier to take every day. If you're thinking about trying Timeline, this is your sign. We're offering our listeners 20% off. That's 20% off your first purchase. Just use code AGEIST at checkout at timelinenutrition.com. That's AGEIST, 20% off. More strength, more energy from the inside out. Margaret, what you got?
I got 3 hard hitting news stories.
Ooh, hard hitting.
So the first one up, it is menopause and sexual wellness goes mainstream. So Halle Berry has boldly entered the sexual wellness space with her brand Respin, partnering with Joylux to normalize intimate health during menopause. On June 9th at the Baradol panel, which was also attended by one of our favorite educational menopause advocates, Tamsin Fidel. Next up, we got Dairy's Wellness Revival, kind of like Got Milk Part 2 here. Dairy's a major comeback in the wellness food scene. Business Insider reported a 10% uptick in organic dairy in 2024, driven by high protein gut health promises. And then last but not least here, we got the Six Senses Resorts debuted a female first biohacking retreat. A lot of female wellness in the news this week. So Six Senses Douro Valley in Portugal has rolled out a new female wellness program crafted around menstrual cycles. So it was created by Dr. Mindy Pels, and it combines fasting, nutritional plans, biomarking trackers, sleep optimization, sound healing, optional IV therapy, and it's starting at just $1,420 for a 3-night stay.
That's actually a bargain at Six Senses, I gotta tell you. Okay. So let's start with this menopause wellness thing. Halle Berry. Okay, love Tamsin, groundbreaking journalist, excellent book, How to Menopause. I'm really huge fan of everything Tamsin does. Halle Berry, I don't know. This feels a bit to me like celebrity ring in the register. Nothing wrong with that. I think so much of this has been so taboo, we can't talk about for a long time. And I'll tell you a quick story. I was in Santa Fe a couple of weeks ago, and I had dinner with a couple of very well-known financial industry professionals, and one of them was a woman, and I told her, about ages and super age, and the first thing out of her mouth is, "Vag cream. You gotta be selling more vag cream." And I was like, "Huh? What?" And she's like, "It's not just for us women, it's for you guys too. Get with the vag cream." So I was like, "Okay, thanks." So I think that this is all fine. I've just seen this in a number of industries where there's just sort of a dash for cash, but it's helping to move the popular discussion. So I'm in favor. Go Halle Berry, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like anytime you can talk about women's health in the mainstream, it's great. And given that Tamsin Fidel has been so on top of this and that she had a part in it, it's great to see that.
Next was Milk, as I recall. So Milk's having a moment. Is that right, Margaret?
Yes, milk is having a moment. I feel like food trends like this tend to always happen. I mean, nutrition is a relatively new science still. New things come out every single year. If we remember back when in was it the 90s, right? Fat was really bad, fat was the enemy, and now all of a sudden it's not. So we kind of go through these waxing and waning trends. But I do find it interesting, potentially just because of this rise and this focus on ultra processed foods and trying to eat a whole food diet. People have reverted back to milk. But my mind always goes to the fact that 65 to 75% of the population is lactose intolerant. So how the milk
Hmm.
trend
Is that
actually
true? 65% of the population is lactose intolerant?
it is. It's based
Wow.
on your genetics and it makes kind of sense ancestrally where you grew up, kind of your gut microbiome.
Oh, that's right. If you're Northern European, there's a type of milk. Oh, I gotta remember. It's like A plus cow or something.
I'm a little fuzzy on it, but there
Yeah.
definitely are certain people based on, again, their
Yeah.
upbringing and genetics that
Right.
they are more inclined to be able to process dairy to adulthood. So I find it interesting just with this kind of discussion more on like gut health and
Hmm.
individualized health and individualized nutrition, food sensitivities that like milk would be having a moment and how those two kind of butt heads or support one another.
Just like observationally, like a year ago or so, it was very hard to find organic cottage cheese. It was just hard to find cottage cheese. Like I remember the first time I asked for it in the supermarket, they're like, "Huh, yeah, we had that like 10, 20 years ago. We don't do that anymore." I was like, "Okay." And now it's everywhere because it's a very good source of casein protein, which digests a little slower. Personally, I'm a big consumer of organic Greek yogurt. I get it from some farm in Pennsylvania, which apparently has nice cows. And I eat cottage cheese. I guess I'm sort of on the bandwagon. Like I was sort of like anti-cow for a while, and now I had my genome run. Like I can digest milk just fine. So, as you said, these things are sort of trend driven. Like you sort of see a lot less. Like the keto thing seems to have sort of gone. That was like a phase.
Yeah, and it makes sense that this is coming kind of off the back of a a trend of milk alternatives. And there's been more talk about maybe even like raw milk, this idea of like
Oh, yeah.
more pasteurized dairy, but make it organic because we don't want to be
Yeah.
in conventional milk. This seems to kind of be the next iteration of that.
When I lived in Venice, California, I lived across the street from a place that was a raw milk collective. And you had to belong and you go in and get your bottle of raw milk. And then it was sort of like semi-legal. And then one day, and you would see people in there. I remember seeing Vincent Gallo in there, like the whole other story, total weirdo. Anyway, you would see some interesting characters in there. And one day I go outside my door, and some arm of the federal government in full tactical gear, automatic weapons, the whole bit, went in to like shut down the raw milk collective. And I went up to one of them like, what are you thinking they're going, what are you expecting? He's like, oh, we don't know. There's some extremists in there. I was like, I don't know, some raw milk, like whatever. Okay, have at it, guys. But I think this whole sort of milk thing, I think it's a lot of this like this protein intensiveness, which I'm also thinking is getting a little out of hand.
But yeah, protein's having a moment too. I feel like a couple years ago, and again,
Yeah,
fats for you. Now it's protein. And I feel like there's,
quite a bit of evidence out there that one of the amino acids, leucine, if you have a very high leucine diet, that's not so great for your long-term health outcome, like what that level is and how much, like
well, again, they all have to work in concerts. You can't just highlight one macronutrient or
right,
micronutrient and go all in on it. They all have to balance.
right, 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 like the all bacon diet or something. Yeah, that's not a good idea. Okay. I've already forgot the third story, Margaret. What is it?
Third one is the female first biohacking retreat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I think that's so interesting. What I have seen in the last 5 years with the interest in everything female. Do you know that female weightlifting is up something like 1,500% or something? I read this stat yesterday.
Wow.
Like women didn't used to just like, oh, we don't lift weights. We're gonna get,
Yeah, we don't
bulky.
want to get bulky. We don't want to look manly.
I don't know what's wrong with bulky, but okay, maybe you don't want that. But it's not gonna happen anyway. So anyway, this whole I sort of refocusing because everything, I mean everything up until I want to say like 5, 8 years ago, all the studies were done on men. It was all about men. Women are just sort of these smaller, sort of longer haired version of men. It's people have woken up that that's really not the case. So I think that this is really interesting. I know the people at Six Senses really well. I know Neil Jacobs. They do a really good product. And I think that this idea of female specific biohacking, I really, really dislike that word biohacking, but I know what they're talking about. They're just talking about like how can you become a better version, the best version of yourself, and then understanding things around menstrual cycles, understanding around energy utilization, menopause. These are all work differently in the female anatomy than male anatomy. So yeah, sounds great. More information. Love it.
Yeah, I think it just connects back to the first one. I feel like really now there's been a lot more about women's health, which is great because, again, getting to your point of like women previously being thought of smaller versions of men. I mean, even our understanding of female anatomy and our reproductive system, that wasn't really studied and in textbooks until the 80s, which is very recent.
Because you guys are so complicated. Men are these really quite simple organisms compared to women. All right. Thank you, Margaret, for the news of the day.
As some of you may have noticed on Aegis socials and in David's recent notes in our Thursday newsletter, we're really excited about the It's Not Too Late idea here at Aegis. David, can you tell us a little more about what this phrase means to you personally?
It's sort of like I embody it. That's like how I run my life. I don't know. Maybe I'm just lucky. I'm privileged. I'm not sure. I do know I have friends, people I've known for decades, and they're living the it's too late lifestyle. And it sucks. Their world is just getting smaller and smaller. Maybe their best friend is their dog. They don't know anyone else and everything. And this is a mindset. It's a mindset centered around optimism that says that you can do things. It's not over. And chances are, I'm 66. There's a very good chance. I mean, I could get by a truck tomorrow, but I'm probably going to be alive another 30 years. If you listen to somebody like Mike Roy's another 40, 50 years. At 66, I have the physicality that my parents had in the early 30s. Possibilities in front of us are tremendous. But like what Christine was pointing out, it's not too late, but you have responsibility in this, which is action. You have to do things. Things just don't happen for you. They don't happen for you like that at this age, and no more than they happened to you when you were 20. You had to do something. So I feel like there's just so much talk I hear out there. I gotta tell you, I've heard this from people in their 20s, their mid-20s. "Oh, it's too late to do whatever." Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're gonna be alive another 100 years. Like get with it. Get to work. Get out there. Start moving in a direction. Test and learn. See what works. And I think that you can adopt this sort of, "It's too late for me. It's too, I'm too whatever." You can adopt that at whatever age you want, and it's probably gonna get you to the same place, which is no different than where you are right now. This idea, and I get sort of revved up about this, like, it's too late for me to get married, it's too late for me to, Christine has this, she's having this, like, wild affair with her boyfriend, like, they're just not gonna get graphic about this, but they're having a very good time. It's not too late for that. It's not too late to start businesses, it's not too late to get out there and make new friends, it's not too late to work on your body, it's not too late for any of this. And if you think it is too late, you're going to hasten that by thinking that. It's something that I just really want to drive home to people, that it's really not too late. Well, maybe contributing to this idea of it being too late for you is your concept of difficulty. And difficulty is in your mind. You decide what's hard and what's not. I don't. And depending on where you set that bar, what you're willing to do, that will determine how much you think it's too late or not. How's that? How did I do, Margaret? Did I summarize that? I feel like I really, went off the edge on that.
No, you did. I feel like it ties in to what you've been saying about optimism too, which makes perfect sense. You're just switching from a pessimistic mindset into an optimistic one. And as you were talking, all I kept thinking about, there's a quote, I believe it's George Orwell, but essentially the point of it is our language shapes our thoughts and our thoughts
Yeah.
shapes our language.
Oh, 100%.
If we're reciting something like it's not too late for ourselves, it's going to motivate us to look for those opportunities and even like see them in front of us versus if we're saying, I can't do this, you just have those blinders on and your world's just going to get smaller and smaller.
You can wake up and say, what amazing thing am I going to see today? Or you can wake up and say, what fresh hell is this? Like, okay, that's up to you.
It's a good reminder for all of us because I am guilty of the late 20s sometimes being like, oh, I can't do this. It's
Oh
too
my God.
do this. And I'm like, no,
Ugh,
it's not. But if you limit yourself in your mind, then it really is too late because you don't have the expansiveness in your
that's right.
thought to think that that's possible.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. I know your time is valuable, and I'm really grateful you decided to spend it with us. If you haven't signed up for the Aegis newsletter, please do. Go to aegis.com/newsletter. It's an amazing publication. I got to say, all right, I'm going to flex a little bit on this. It's awesome. And we've been doing it for 10 years, so we're good at it, and you're going to like it. So check that out, aegis.com/newsletter. Please subscribe to this podcast if you can, and share it with someone else who maybe you think could use something like this.
Thanks, David, for having me. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. Stay strong, stay optimistic, stay vibrant. We'll see you guys next week.